Every student wants to get better, develop new skills, improve their current skill set. But the biggest question is how? How can I grow? How can I improve? How can I get my attacks to flow or stop using muscle? Why can't I get my lopsa to work? This presentation is my own interpretation of what I've learned to get where I am. This information does not supersede anything taught at Windy City Wing Chun. Hopefully, it supplements it. It's simply my categorization of ideas and concepts, and hopefully it can help you reach the next level. I can only talk about what I know, and what I know is this. Too often we try to reach farther than we can grasp. We try to apply concepts that we're just not ready for. We want to run before we can walk or fly before we can crawl. But there's a natural progression of development, an order that, in general, needs to be followed. First learn the basics. Learn to crawl, then run, then fly. That's the order of the universe. There's nothing wrong with trying new things, but from what I've seen, we wrestle with more advanced concepts without checking on the basic skills. And in more advanced concepts, they're a way to determine how well your basic skills are. So once you've got your basics down, then you can soar with the dragons. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the foundation. It, just like the foundation of anything, is what everything else is built on. In Wing Chun, the foundation is the stance. Now, by Western standards, the stance is probably the most boring aspect of Wing Chun to develop on. It's you just standing there. But it goes so much beyond that. If your stance isn't perfect, the rest of your techniques will not be perfect. Now, it's not to say you can't do any damage with the punch or you're not going to be able to block, but you won't be able to block as efficiently as you could. And quite frankly, my goal is always to be perfect. If I can't pull off perfection in practice, then I won't be able to pull off perfection in application. So, when you're chi-saoing or sparring or whatever, after a couple minutes or 30 seconds or whatever, check your stance. Make sure that your feet are about shoulder width apart. Make sure that, if you're shifted, that your feet are parallel. If you're square on, that your feet form the triangle, slightly pigeon-toed. Now, in application, you don't necessarily have to follow this to the letter, but in practice, you should be shooting for this to help help you in your development. Your weight needs to be in the middle of each foot and evenly distributed between the two. Not leaning one side or the other. And ultimately, your goal is to control your center, is to make sure that you know where your center is, you know how to control it, and can move it around. And these are just the basics. There are all kinds of other things. You want to make sure that your knees are naturally sunk, your hips are tucked under to connect your upper body to your lower body. You've got to keep your spine straight. You can't be looking to the side or up and down. All these things play with your stance, and any deviation in these things or bad habits in any of them can affect all the other things that you're trying to do. Your punch, your blocking, how you flow, whether or not you're muscling. So your stance, if you want to get better with your attacks or your blocks, first check your stance. If your stance is off, well, this pretty much sums it up. You won't notice until it's too late. So you want to make sure in practice you're getting it together. So the next thing we want to talk about is the structure. Now, the structure has to be built upon your foundation. Now, when I'm talking about structure, I'm talking about your posture and the position of your arms and how you're holding them. So you want to make sure that everything is in the right place, that your shoulders are sunk, that your elbows are sunk. This helps build on the next concept, which is relaxation. You want to make sure that your hips are tucked under, which connects the body, the upper body, to the base. Without that, your structure isn't sitting on the foundation that you've built. You want to make sure that your hands and wrists are covering your center. And in general, you just want to make sure your arms are in the right position for the technique that you're trying to apply. Your elbow should be behind the hands. That way, that's whatever the PowerPoint actually is supported by your entire structure. And then you want to make sure that you've got the right amount of power and tension in your hands, and that creates that balloon action. Now, you learn this by developing the forms. Your forms are where you learn the correct position and the correct power, the flow of all the motions. It's, again, a very basic concept, but if we're talking about you want to learn how to get your attacks better or flow or be able to chi style better, you have to have the proper structure. Structure is learned from the forms. Now, once you have the correct structure and it's sitting on the right foundation, then you can hold your technique in relaxation. Now, relaxation doesn't mean that you're just limp and you just let your hands go willy-nilly. Relaxation means you've got enough power to hold your technique, but not too much that you can't listen or that you can't adjust. What you want to be able to do in relaxation is you can hold your structure, you can keep your triangle, but you can move it around. You're flexible with it. And ultimately, you can go with the force. Now, this is a hard concept. You can be too relaxed and too limp, and your structure collapses, or too tense, and your structure will never collapse, but anyone can just go around you and you can't flow. So, but it's important to have the right structure and the right with the right structure, you won't be using as much muscle, and then you can flow. So when you have the ability to hold your structure in relaxation, then you can develop control. Now, I don't mean control in the terms of the 13 principles. The 13 principles can be applied in any aspect of what I'm talking about. Control is kind of two aspects. There's controlling yourself. So knowing when the motion starts and stops, meaning timing. Know when to move, when to stop, when to flow, and when to attack. And then you know the range of the motion, knowing the proper position for your attack and when to apply it. And then once you can control yourself and your own motions, then you can control your opponent. And from there, we're talking about the concept of equalizing and neutralizing. You want to be able to balance your opponent's force coming at you, be able to hold it, neutralize it, and that's only done with a relaxed structure. And you want to play your game. When you have control of yourself and you have control of your opponent, meaning you can feel him, you can listen to him, you can respond and react properly with the right equalization, neutralization. Talking about cut in the realm of structure, then you're free to play your game. You're free to apply the concepts of Wing Chun, and you'll be able to move freely from there. Now, the last part in my path here is domination. Once you're at the point where you've got your solid foundation that holds your structure in relaxation to the point where you can control yourself and your opponent, well, then you can dominate. You want to know how you can get better? Well, it's through these three things. When you want to be able to dominate your opponent, well, it's through this. Now, I said in the beginning, I can only talk about the things that I know. And I'm not here yet. You want to talk about domination? I know a couple of good resources for you to consult. It's Sifu De La Cruz and Sifu Fong. Those are your resources. Once I get better, I'll throw something on this slide. So, the path to domination, just to reiterate, build your foundation, your stance. Be able to hold it and control your center. Have the proper structure. built on the foundation, hips tucked in, but know where your arms are supposed to be, where your body is supposed to be held, how you're supposed to be upright, and where you're supposed to be focused. Hold your structure in relaxation, not too much power, not too much energy. These are very basic concepts, and we've talked about them a lot, but if you want to get better, this is where you focus. And then work on your control of yourself, your own motions, be able to listen and feel, and then equalize. Then, theory is, you should be able to dominate. Once I get there, I'll let you know. Now, you want to get better, there's an African proverb, if you fell, don't look where you fell, look where you tripped. You're trying to pull off your lop sao attack, or you're trying to do your chi sao, make sure that you can do the basics well. Make sure you can do everything beneath that well, because if your structure's off, if your stance is off, then you're not going to be able to pull off these attacks. So you always have to go back to the basics. Hopefully this helped. I'm Ron Langtu. Peace.